Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Paul, and in this video, we're going to be going over some ideas for how to work on and practice Saxophone Etude One for the 2024-2025 TMEA Jazz Saxophone auditions. So to prepare this etude, we want to be doing a lot of listening, specifically to bebop jazz saxophonists like Charlie Parker. And then a level beyond that would be to transcribe solos by Charlie Parker. Really paying attention to the swing style and the articulation to get that character into your playing. So if transcription is relatively new to you, the next best thing you can do is play along with recordings of bebop heads, trying to, as in transcription, match the style of the swing and articulation as much as possible to get that sound in your ear. This is all very important so that you get a better understanding of the nuances of the swing feel and articulation in the bebop style. And there are many great bebop players. So if you have a particular player that you really enjoy listening to or a specific album, please feel free to share in the comments, because the more listening that we all do, the better. And this kind of leads into the main thing that we're going to dig into with this etude, and that is articulation. So to start, let's talk about offbeat swing articulation. This is where the second eighth note in an eighth note pair of swung eighth notes is tied to the downbeat of the next eighth note. And this type of articulation is usually used in continuous eighth note lines, and it is very soft, like you're saying the word the, but just with the th sound, the th sound. So if we were to play the first measure or so with this articulation, it would sound something like this. And this kind of leads us into the next style of articulation that is specific to jazz, and that is end tonguing. So this is where you press your tongue up against the side or rail of the reed, a little bit below the tip, as if you're saying the syllable mm. And this gets us that type of sound that's kind of muted or ghosted. And so notice that if I do it too close to the tip, everything's gonna cut out. So the first place we might want to incorporate this style of articulation is in the last triplet of beat 1 in measure 2. And to practice it, we probably just want to isolate going between the normal note and then the ghosted or end tongue note. And then play a larger chunk, practicing it slowly. And then try to put it in the full context of the line. Notice that I also put it on the last eighth note of measure 2 as well. And so the same thing applies for practicing it here. Try to isolate the change between the normal and then the end tongue. We want to try to not lose the focus of the sound, even though we're kind of ghosting it. So that way it still kind of shows up when we're playing at a faster tempo. So another articulation exercise that is useful for this etude is to play everything slurred, but add air accents to downbeats and important notes. So this is like the opposite of ghosting, where we bring out the notes that we want to emphasize. And so the goal of this is to make sure that our swing feel is staying even and that the air is moving through the line. And then it gives us another layer of articulation to work with. So if I combine this all together, so So another idea to consider is the melodic and rhythmic phrasing of each of these lines. So a lot of times the last three notes in a group of four are either moving to beat three or beat one of the next measure. And so being aware of this can help us bring out that usually chromatic motion or enclosure motion to that next beat, and gives the line forward momentum or forward motion. So, for example, in measure four, if we play, notice that's going to beat three, and then it's going to the downbeat of the next measure. And you can see this throughout much of the etude. Okay, so now with these concepts in mind, the offbeat swing articulation, the end tongue, accenting specific important notes to help bring out the phrasing, let's go ahead and play through or work through each of the kind of phrases. So we've kind of already gone over the first phrase. So now let's go ahead and dive into the second phrase, starting in measure three. So here we'll have the offbeat articulation as well, and then we'll place an end tongue likely on the and or te of two. And then notice that we also want to stop notes going into rests with our tongue. So we have a short articulation. So for the next phrase, similar ideas, just offbeat slurred articulation throughout, stopping that last note with our tongue. So for this next phrase, starting with the pickup into measure 8, we're going to slur through all of the triplets into beat 3. Then we're going to put an end tongue on the and or te of 4, leading into the downbeat of measure 9. You can also include an end tongue on the and or te of beat 1 in measure 10. So for the next phrase, we'll include the offbeat swing articulation as well, except for at measure 14, we're going to slur through all those triplets into beat 2, and then same thing in measure 15, slurring through the triplets into beat 2. And note that when I'm playing it slow, some of these articulations might sound exaggerated, but as it gets faster, things will smooth out more and connect better together. I'm also kind of overdoing it just to emphasize the articulations. So for the next two phrases, similar offbeat style articulation as well. So for the phrase starting in measure 21, we're going to slur through all these triplets, but place an end tongue on the last triplet. And then in the next measure, we'll put an end tongue on the A flat of beat 2. And then the next phrase, offbeat articulation as well. For the phrase starting in measure 25, we're going to slur through all the triplets and then accent beat 3. And then we'll play through the rest of it using that offbeat swing articulation. For the end of the phrase at measure 29, we want to use a do-dit articulation, so long, short. So for the last phrase, we're also going to be using that offbeat swing articulation, but notice how I incorporate accents and some end tongues to accentuate the melodic motion of the line. Okay, and so as always, when working on these etudes, you want to start out slow, practicing with the metronome, and then gradually work up the tempo. So hopefully you found this video helpful in some way. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. And thanks for watching.